We need to also think about ways to secure our home. You know, a way to have someone sitting up watching security at night to protect your backyard, booby traps, or have, you know, dummy doors and things like that. Not getting that crazy. We're not putting on our tinfoil hats and stuff. But you know what? There may come a time when you may need to know how to build a bear trap. In your urban setting, Chris is going to talk tonight about alternative lighting sources. We need to also think about ways to secure our home. I found out one people in the group here knows a whole lot about securing locations. We might be able to talk him into giving us a talk about how to black out our windows, how to use light as a way to disguise yourself, how to black out your windows so that when you're reading something or you're reading your King James at night off by candlelight, you're not letting all the neighbors know that you have something they don't. You know, a way to have someone sitting up watching security at night to protect your backyard, to watch for the people coming through the woods up to your house because they smelled something, or they're just looking to hit the next one in a row. You know, you have to wait. You have to have a way to hide, secure your place. Ways to not necessarily build dummy or booby traps, or have, you know, dummy doors and things like that. Not getting that crazy. We're not putting on our tinfoil hats and stuff. But you know what? There may come a time when you may need to know how to build a bear trap. You know, a way to have someone sitting up watching security at night to protect your backyard. You may need to know that you can take a bunch of 16-penny nails, drive them through a piece of plywood out of your garage, put it under your window, and nobody's going to be standing under your window at night. You know, or when they jump over the fence trying to get through, that'd be something nice for them to land on. You know, something about taking all the glass bottles that are no good to you and crushing them with a brick in your backyard, scraping it up with a bucket, and spreading it out through the grass around your house where people might crawl through to try and get up to your house. Give them something to crawl on. You know, those sort of things you need to start thinking of next.
Mob mentalities and what I would do, and that's what got me actually thinking about doing all this.
I got to tell you, mob mentality, trying to think of how to deal with mobs, is, I think, one of the most important things we can learn, and we should all be talking about, because it's the stuff that nobody talks about, but it's the thing that's going to affect us all. Whether it's a herd of guys, about 1 million people basically in the Cleveland metro area, they're going to be really hungry. And they're all going to start walking the freeways to try and find something. Because after 3 or 4 days of trying to steal from each other, there's nothing left to take. They've already looted the Food King. Get the reference there, John?
No, the metro parks too, they're all going to...
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
They're going to move like herds of people.
Yep.
And it's going to pass the economic boundaries that we're used to thinking of inner city versus, you know, not. Problem is the guy coming out of Fairlawn, you know, lives in a great house, nice neighborhood. He's got killer guns and he's got lots of ammo. Hopefully he has lots of ammo. His life may depend on it. But he's going to be just as much of a fear as the guys that live in the projects around the corner from here. You know, it's not going to matter if the guy's wearing an Armani shirt or you know, going around with his backpack from Nike versus the one that's coming out of the ghetto with straight out of Compton tattooed on his chest. It doesn't make any difference. At that point, they're all going to be our enemy. Not so much an enemy, but they're all going to be hunting us. Yeah, they are the adversary, exactly, and that's the point. You know, somebody last month had mentioned something about what you put into your urban bob bag versus your rural bob bag. And a couple of the comments we came up with, this is one item that I carry in my urban kit. It's just a basic hatchet, but it's not one like you would take out in the woods. It's one I've had forever. It's a good carbon steel. It takes a good edge, holds it. It's good for pulling some nails. I've got it wrapped with paracord. We all know the benefit of that. I keep this strapped to my load-bearing harness setup that I have in my quick reaction stuff. This is one of those pieces of gear that will get you to a door. It'll help break into a building. It'll cut off a padlock. It'll open a chain link fence. And this is another one of those tools. $2 at Wally World or at Harbor Freight. It's called a Wonder Bar. We use them in the construction industry. It's one of the best tools out there. I, of course, wrap mine with paracord. I got an addiction, sorry. But I keep this in, again, strapped through the molly of my load bearing gear, because I can open a door, I can bust through something, I can use this as a hammer and pound it and cut anything I need to. If you'll notice, I have duct tape on the edges of my stuff, and that's because I've already sharpened them. And they're razor sharp, I could shave with them. Because what good is a dull tool? I keep them super sharp because I can use this to cut through a metal door on a house. I can cut through the lock on it in five blows of this with this. A quick wrench left, and I've broken the frame of the door, and I've opened up the door. There's not a house I can't be into in less than 5 minutes. And that's my 375-pound fat butt with my cane wearing a load-bearing gear. I can be into any house in 5 minutes. So if I can do it, what's the little kid around the corner that's already busting into your garage gonna do? But these are two nice light tools, multi-duty, multifunctional. The only other thing I would recommend, and I forgot to grab it out of my gear to bring it, is I have a handle, which is a little bigger than this. And onto it you can attach a Sawzall blade. And I have a stack of Sawzall blades that are up to 16 inches and 12 inches long for cutting all kinds of wood. I have a bunch of them for cutting through metal. And I have a couple of ones that have blades on both sides, and a whole bunch of each. And with a simple screw set, I can change out and have one that's ready for cutting wood, one that's ready to cut through a metal fence, or cut a piece of rebar, just by changing out the blades. Lightweight tool, costs about 10 bucks at Home Depot, and get yourself a nice big stack of blades. They're never gonna go out of style.
Those are with like the drywall tape and stuff, right?
Exactly, it's a
Because
tool
they're
used,
drywall
drywallers use.
Okay.
It's called a keyhole saw.
Keyhole
Is what
saw.
they use, but they make one that has interchangeable blades, and it's a nice big handle, looks like the handle of a really good screwdriver. It's a little bit oversized, and it has 2 set screws in the side that you slide your blade in, hit the set screws, and you're on. Just as easy as take it apart, and it's just a handle. But a really nice tool. Sorry I didn't bring it. I'll make a point to bring one next month to show you. For 10 bucks, put it this way. This is 20 bucks. You can buy one at Home Depot. Buy the Klein brand, K-L-I-E-N, I believe it's spelled.
I think it's the eye.
Yeah, but it's got the hammer head on the back side of it. It's carbon steel, a good steel. You can sharpen it, it's gonna take an edge. It's a hatchet, a roofing hatchet is basically what it's called. And some of them even have a version of this, a cat's paw on the front of it, where you can pry a roofing nail. It's what they use to make shake shingle roofs. Now, I'm not, and to do slate roofs. It's how you would trim your slate when you were putting a slate roof on a house 70 years ago. But the tool isn't used much anymore. 15, 20 bucks, you get a nice one. 3, 4 bucks, get one of these. You know, and then another 10 bucks on the handle for the keyhole saw, and a bunch of blades. You've got your toolkit with that and a couple of screwdrivers, a roll of duct tape, and a roll of electrical tape. That's your toolkit to get through an urban situation. You know, a lot of us don't have water because we know we can go purify what we have. Well, in my case, I have a 8-foot by 10-foot by almost 11-foot cistern built into the basement of my house, and it's about 4 feet deep. I think I'm good. I can purify the water coming out of there, but in a matter of an hour, I can reroute the gutters on my house to feed that cistern back again and refill it. So my needs at the house are kind of taken, but I store 2-liter bottles of water, and I have a layer of them in my deep freeze that are frozen solid as a brick. For when the power goes out, I just reach in and grab 2 or 3 and throw them in the refrigerator, and 2 or 3 and throw them in the freezer up in the kitchen until the power comes back on. But that mass of water is also, as it thaws out, it's good drinking water to use. But anyhow, okay, we're gonna bring this to a close on this subject. Before we go anywhere, I'm gonna talk to everybody about the food group. There's been a lot of questions about the food group that we're doing. For those of you that don't know, stick around tonight after the meeting is over. We have 800 pounds of food we're putting up in buckets tonight. I haven't done the math and added it up total of where we're at now, but at last count, I think we were somewhere in the neighborhood of having a year's supply worth of food put up between the group for, I think it was up to 10 people now since we started this, and I think tonight we'll surpass that by a whole lot. So in increments, what we're doing is making a lot of difference. And this one program is the one thing that's got me so excited about this group and what we're doing, because it's actually making a difference. You know, having a bucket of rice doesn't seem like a whole lot until you realize that that handful of rice and that handful of beans out of this one cooked together in a pot will feed you for a day. Will keep your family alive for a day. And that's taking back to the two guys in the cul-de-sac. If they had just had a 5-gallon bucket of rice and a 5-gallon bucket of beans, their children wouldn't be starving. And he wouldn't be out shooting any that moves in the woods. It's that simple. Basic information here. So anyways, when we get done tonight doing the food group, stick around if you have questions. Partake and help us put up some buckets or get a grip on what we're doing. It goes very quick. In an hour's time, we'll have all these 800 pounds worth of food divided up into buckets, sealed up with a Mylar bag with the edges sealed, with the oxygen absorbers, ready to go for 25 to 30 years shelf life storage at your house. Something I came along this past week on one of the other prepper boards. I was talking to a guy. He had a problem with his 5-gallon buckets that he bought from one of the food companies, all compressing, and they were sucking down. This is one thing we do different than what you're buying the stuff for when you go to Costco or you go to Sam's Club or you order the stuff over the internet. When you buy your bulk food in 5-gallon buckets from those people, they're not in Mylar bags. They're just in the bucket with an oxygen absorber. They rely on the rubber seal of the bucket. If that ever fails, your food's done. There is no backup plan. But the other side of the coin is temperature shifts. And the oxygen absorber, creating a vacuum inside the bucket, will compress the sides of the bucket. So if you have a stack of 10 buckets or 5 buckets in your basement, and the ones towards the bottom, the first ones that were put together, all seal up, and they start to compress and suck in and get unlevel at the top. Now you have a stack of 4 or 5 buckets that could fall over in your basement, and you could lose 20 buckets worth of food when they all hit your basement floor and crack open.
And that vacuum will suck in moisture.
And that vacuum will suck in moisture in the first crack of the seal. Exactly. If it goes through a freeze-thaw cycle, think of when the Challenger blew up. If you guys ever paid attention to that stuff. When the Challenger blew up, it was an O-ring, the thickness of this toothpick, that caused the Challenger to blow up in mid-flight, because they allowed it to freeze overnight when the temperature dropped, and they didn't wait until it had warmed up to shoot the shuttle off, because it had a time when it had to go window-wise. And instead of waiting an hour until they had another window, they shot it off first thing in the morning because they were afraid of the storm coming in. As it went up into the air, the moisture seal of that little O-ring gave way, and that's what allowed the side rocket boosters on the shuttle to explode. Same thing is going to happen to your food storage if you have it in a 5-gallon bucket with just that rubber seal. If it gets cold, or if it freezes, and it cracks or gives way at all, air is going to be sucked in by the vacuum, and the moisture in the air is going to contaminate all your food in a very short time. The point is you may not know it until it's too late, because all you're going to see is that bucket sitting on your floor in your basement, or sitting on the shelf in your basement, and it looks like a normal 5-gallon bucket until you crack it open and look and realize, oh my God, that seal went bad. I just lost 25 pounds of rice. My family now doesn't have this to eat, but it's too late to figure it out. Now you can't do anything about it. Hence why we do things the more expensive way, but the best way to do it, which is in the 5-gallon Mylar bucket, a bucket with a 5-gallon Mylar bag and an oxygen absorber, all sealed up and stacked up tight. Booby traps, or have dummy doors and things like that. Not getting that crazy. We're not putting on our tinfoil hats and stuff. But you know what? There may come a time when you may need to know how to build a bear trap.